back to another episode of Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Miller. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And I tuned in yesterday to let you all know that my diagnosis has completely shifted underneath my feet. And I was feeling really, really bad yesterday after having so much, the light shine in my eyes. And it was unbelievable, these things that I had to look at. There was this one thing where, you put your chin up against the machine, and I'm looking through this little hole. And there's like a target in front of me. But all of the background behind the target is like a TV that can't get focused. It's like all the pixels are like sizzling, for lack of a better word. And all of that is in red. It's like red and white. It was terrible. And then there was like these crosshair lasers that were it was terrible. And of course they dilated my eyes and did the normal like look behind your eyes thing. So as I mentioned yesterday, everything is fine with my visual system. So it's interesting because that's good news, right? It's good news that there's nothing wrong with my visual system. However, I don't know what's wrong with me. So one of the things I think I mentioned yesterday, it's a little a little blurry yesterday, my episode, but that if there was something wrong with my visual system, that it's much easier typically to fix than if something is wrong with my vestibular system, which is what keeps your balance. And that integrates your eyes, your ears, all of that. So, who I'm going to, it's a neurologist, which everybody I called today was in the medical field was like, what's a neurologist? Now, granted, these are the people at the front desk, so they don't have a background in any medical thing other than, maybe they're educated in working as an assistant or something like that. Anyway, they didn't know what a neurologist was. Neurologist was. So that was challenging. I got bounced around a ton, and what they kept saying to me is, oh, so you're just looking for an ENT. And I was like, what's an ENT? And they said ear, nose, and throat. So interestingly, I used to go to a ear, nose, and throat guy. It's what we called him when I was growing up. My mom would take me about once a year, I think, when I started saying what, every time she tried to say something to me. Because I couldn't hear what it was what she was saying. So anyway, it's an ear, nose, and throat guy, but like neurology apparently has to do with how your vision works with your balance system. Because what I learned a little bit this morning was, when you're a baby and you're learning how to walk, when you're a toddler, you're using your vision to find like that grounding. And so your vision is a part of your balance, even though the stuff in your ears, the crystals in your ears and stuff are also like a huge part. That's why when you get dizziness, like big dizzy spells and that kind of thing, they check your ears and they do that stuff with the crystals in your ears, which is what I was trying to say yesterday, but I was wrecked yesterday after my appointment. So I looked all around for a neurology specialist, and it turns out that everybody seems to be categorized instead as I'm going to destroy this word, but otolaryngology. Otolaryngology. That's ear, nose, and throat guy. is what I'm getting from all of this. So I was referred to a neurologist, but that wasn't, of course, in my insurance plan. I mean, why would it be? That would be too easy. So I needed to look around for another neurologist. Well, let me tell you, nobody knows what that is or where to find one. But I did find a couple guys through MedStar Health that are neurotologists, but they're actually categorized in MedStar Health as otolaryngologists. So I ended up finding someone that is in McLean, and her name is Shannon Pryor. So she's an otolaryngologist, and I'm going to say that as much as possible so I can just have that flow right off of my tongue. But she will be, her focus is in a ton of different conditions, and some of them include what I'm experiencing, like dizziness, I don't know, disorder of balance. There's headache. Yeah, that's a big one. There's a giganto list. One thing that I keep running across is something called Meniere's disease. I don't believe I had that. That's like a fluid in your ears, like nonstop fluid in your ears or something like that. Anyway, so that's what I'm doing. And this lady in McLean, I was able to make an appointment for next month. So that's really, really huge. So that's great. So that's the good news. I think the challenge that I want to talk about today is how freaking sad I was when I woke up this morning and how I felt yesterday. Because this is the mental health challenges that I am facing, and I think it's important that I talk about them so that if there's anybody else who's dealing with shifting diagnoses, you know that you're not alone. And I'm sure that this can apply to anyone who's dealing with these, when you're going to doctor, whether you're going to the doctor for yourself or you're going to the doctor for your dad or your mom. There's a lot of folks that are my age who we're right at that age where they're bringing their parents to these doctors and getting them diagnosed with things that are not always clear. It's not always a quick diagnosis. You have to try different specialists and stuff, and that can be really challenging. For me, the way that I have felt over the past 24 hours is sad. I have felt sad and hopeless, and so I want to talk about that a little bit and just see where it goes. And I think that when we're navigating our mental health amidst these shifting diagnoses, it's important to understand that although it feels like the ground is shifting underneath my feet, I need to understand that nothing has changed. I'm still the same person with the same disability. Just because the neuro-ophthalmologist was unable to diagnose what's wrong with me doesn't mean that nobody believes me. And that's where I started. I was really, I feel it now too, is on the verge of crying, because when I go to these doctors And this is what I've been dealing with when, I went to the neurologist in the beginning. They gave me medication. It didn't work. And I stopped going because I was frustrated that they didn't know what was wrong with me and they were just throwing medication at me. Like I wanted to know what was wrong with me. So I stopped going. That was a terrible decision. Don't do that. It's a terrible decision. I had to explain it yesterday to the neuro-ophthalmologist. He's like, why is there a 2-year gap between your stroke and you being here today? And I said, because I gave up. I gave up and I tried to act like everything was fine, and it wasn't fine, and I just made things worse. So where was I going with that? It feels like when I'm not getting what I need right away, instant gratification. I'm an alcoholic, so I want things right away. I want things to be my way right away. I want things to feel good right away. And I'm not getting that. It makes me feel like either nobody's listening, nobody believes me, that kind of thing. I know I can't be alone because one thing that I've learned since I got sober is that I'm not unique. And I say it all the time. And the reason why I say it all the time is because if anybody's listening who sometimes feels like whatever they're feeling, nobody else has ever felt it, I'm here to tell you that absolutely they have. Like, you're not unique. We aren't unique. None of us have ever felt anything that nobody else in the world has ever felt. And that's one of the reasons why I do the podcast, because people come and say, oh, you're so vulnerable. You're really like just telling all and stuff. Because I'm not the only one. Like, there's nothing that I'm unveiling here that is like, oh, is like, mind blowing, or that I'm this different kind of person and I can't believe she's gone public and she's talking about her alcoholism and her mental health and all this stuff, because it's nothing new. There's nothing I'm experiencing that other people aren't experiencing. So I want to talk about it because I want to save myself, because although it's nothing new and it's stuff that everybody else feels, it's still difficult and it still hurts and it's still scary and it still pulls me down into deep depressions if I don't do something about it. So that's why I'm here. And so, I think that this change in diagnoses, well, potential, right? Potential diagnosis. So I went to a neuro-ophthalmologist, a neuro-ophthalmologist, and these were all focused on vision, because since I'm having a hard time seeing, I just figure that it has something to do with my eyes. So what I'm learning is this might not have anything to do with your eyes. So what I believed was happening over the past 2.5 years is not what's happening. It's just not what's happening. I've had the specialists, like the best neuro-ophthalmologist in the area, looked at me, and he's like, all I can tell you is that your stroke did not cause something wrong with your vision. So, how does that feel? It's just, it made me feel unsettled, anxious. It made me feel overwhelmed, but sad, all of these feelings. And I think that what's most important is to acknowledge it. And this morning when I woke up and I went to my sobriety meeting, I didn't share, because that's what I do when I start feeling sad. I isolate myself. So that's what I did. I didn't share. And then towards the end of my sobriety meeting, I got a text from my boss, and he said to, let him know if I'm available sometime and we'll talk. So I called him right afterwards, and I told him that I wasn't feeling happy, that I was feeling frustrated and that kind of thing. So that was my initial attempt to start getting out of myself and start talking about what was wrong with me. So, acknowledging it is, I think, the first step. It's natural to feel sad. It's natural to feel frustrated. So I need to acknowledge that. That kind of, when you're uncertain about what's going on with your health, mind you, much less anything else in your life, it's just natural to have these feelings. And so I need to acknowledge that. And that's what I'm doing here today in this episode. And I apologize if my brain's like not firing on all cylinders tonight. So I'm sure you can tell. So we're going to keep going anyway, because that's what I do here, is just let it all hang out, as it were. So what I did was I went on to ChatGPT today, and I said, "Hey, Chatter McChatterton, this is what happened. I went to a neuro-ophthalmologist yesterday, and they told me that there's nothing wrong with my vision system and that I should go to a neurologist. And I'm feeling a little sad about that. What would you recommend that I do?" That's what I did. And I got all these great ideas about what I should do. I love Chatty McChatterton. I really do. So some of the things that he told me about were to go to online forums. So I remembered that I have a sign-in for the stroke, the National Stroke Association, I think it is. And so I went on there and I posted a post, and I said, "This is what happened, and I'm feeling like I need some emotional support. Are there any resources available?" Another thing that I did was I went on LinkedIn. There's a organization called Stroke Onward that specifically focuses on emotional health post stroke. So I sent them a message and I said, "Look, this is what happened. I'm feeling like I may need some, some coping strategy, something. Do you have any resources that you could direct me to?" So I sent them a message also. So the thing that's important is I'm getting outside of myself. And it's interesting to watch it happen, watch my internal dialogue throughout the day, because I woke up this morning feeling really like I could easily go into a depression. That's what I felt like this morning. I felt like if I didn't have my two dogs, I would have pulled the sheets right back over my head, and I wouldn't have gotten out of bed for sure. Because that's how just I didn't want to face the world. But I have my puppies, and I started to send some brief little messages to my family. I told them that this is what happened. I did not tell them how I'm feeling about it. I just told them what happened. So I will continue to try to reach out and share my experience. So I plan on starting with this episode. Then I'm going to write a blog about it, and just continue to talk about this transitional period where, if you go on my website, I'm talking everywhere about neurological vision impairment, because that's what I had been pointed to. That's what was apparent to me. Like, I can't I can't read well. I can't, it's all visual for me. So it only made sense to me that it's a visual problem. So I need to go back and look at all of that and talk about what that's like, what that transition is like, and make sure that I'm as public as possible about what it feels like, because again, I'm not the only one. And I I want to make sure that the coping strategies that I've talked about in my previous episodes are my anchor during all of this. All of this was um not to only just tell about my journey, but it's also to prepare me for what's next. And if I'm practicing what I preach, then I will be well prepared to continue to move forward and up, like I always say. So, doing things like mindfulness, meditation, yoga, and taking my naps, making sure I eat well, reaching outside myself, and then hobbies. All of these hobbies that I've started doing, I need to continue to do them, not to crawl in bed like I feel like I want to do, continue to do activities that bring me joy. And unfortunately, right now, as I mentioned in a episode recently, gardening is coming to a close because of the weather, but I still have a little more that I can do cleaning out the garden, and spending time with my bulldog and my Weimaraner definitely give me a lot of joy. Side note, we went to PetSmart today because Boris, the bulldog, needed a grooming appointment. So, because he was getting stinky. He gets stinky. So he went, and then Autumn and I uh, walked around a little bit until I started getting sharp pains behind my eyes. But we walked around and I found a scarf for her. So she has a brand new scarf. I'll post it on Facebook. So that's adorable. But it's that little stuff. It's that little stuff that brings me joy and makes me feel like, life is still good. Life's still fine. Everything is okay. Just because they tell me that what I thought was wrong with me isn't what's wrong with me doesn't mean that anything's changed. One of my biggest fears is that nobody's going to find out what's wrong with me. Like, no doctors are going to find out what's wrong with me, so my insurance isn't going to believe me that something's wrong with me. That's my biggest fear. And I need to figure out how to let that go and just believe in the system. And it's difficult. It's difficult because even when doctors do find out what's wrong with you, the insurance company still denies you. So that all of that is just unnecessary stress for somebody who's very sick. And that's unfortunate, and there's not much I can do about it other than keep standing up for myself, which gets exhausting. So I need to not underestimate the power of maintaining my hobbies and my activities, continue to cuddle up with my pooches and play with them, and make sure that I continue to have open communication with family, friends, and my healthcare providers. So I called my neurologist twice today. I haven't heard back again, but I know that they've got other patients. I'm not the only one, but I just need to get a referral to the new neurotologist because the other one wasn't in my insurance plan. So, um, you know, it's like I want some sort of validation that what I'm feeling health wise is real. And it's sad that it's unfortunate that I feel like I need that. But That's what it is. That's what I feel like, at least. And I feel like I need to continue to advocate for my physical health. So even though I feel that way, just keep pushing forward and feeling confident. Don't give up. That's the last thing that I need to do is give up. Like, I have got to keep pushing forward and keep seeing whatever specialists I need to until somebody can at least, there's two sides to this. There's what is wrong with me? That's one side of it. And the other side is there anything they can do about it? And so right now, I'm more interested in what is wrong with me, not necessarily is there something they can do about it. Of course, I'm interested in seeing if there's something they can do about it, but I'm more hopeful about finding out what's wrong with me than I am them finding or knowing what they can do about it. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm trying to continue to embrace the journey. Embrace the journey. And there's something, I'm growing. I'm growing every day, learning how to practice patience and seeking support, leaning into my sobriety program, and continuing to grow my network in the stroke community, because I think that's important as well. That when I get to these stroke support groups, that I speak up and say, this is what I dealt with this month. Can anyone relate? Do you have any advice for me? So that's the plan. And it's not about the destination, it's about the journey, right? I feel like even saying bullshit to myself, but it's going to be fine. Everything's okay. Everything's okay. And I'm really happy that you're here. It really, really, really freaking helps me keep going every day to just sign on and have a channel to talk about my struggles with my stroke recovery. So thanks so much for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.